home I had ever known. I do not want to leave. But now as the sound of the engines grows to a roar and shifts in pitch, I strain to take a last look around. I am hoping for an opening in the storm, as much for me as for the pilot. I want to see the ice plane one more time and lose myself in its empty horizon. But the notion passes, like waking from a dream, and within moments begins to seem unreal. The Geographic Cure. If this story is to begin anywhere, it should begin in the night. I have always been a night person. When the sun goes down, my spirits rise. I am more alert, quicker, more in tune with the rhythms of the world. There are many nights to choose from, but one comes to mind now. In the emergency room at a hospital in Cleveland, Ohio, 2 months before I went to the ice. For me, each shift started before I reached the hospital gates. I drove into the city like a soldier preparing for battle, chugging coffee and listening to rock tapes to shake my brain awake and get my blood pumping. Dangerous Minds, Queen, we will rock you. As I passed the ambulances and police cruisers parked at the back entrance, I felt an enormous energy and dread. The automatic doors slid open with a sucking sound, and I was pulled into the ER like a swimmer in a riptide. Oh, dear God, let everything go right tonight. I navigated my way through anxious families huddled in the hallway, past the rows of injured people immobilized on backboards, the sick on stretchers, some crying out for help. By now I was on. It's showtime. I had to be composed, acutely aware, and ready to think on my feet, no matter how little sleep I'd had the day before, what had happened at home before leaving for work, how I felt. As I walked into the nurses' station, I arrived in the safe zone of EMTs, emergency medical technicians, nurses, X-ray techs, and lab techs. My physician partners looked stressed and hurried, as they usually did at this time of night. Prime time for emergency medicine. "Nielsen, really good to see you," said Max, a friend and fellow ER doc, as he raced toward the trauma room. "Grab some charts. We just took a big hit." No time to get a cup of coffee or converse. There were 8 charts in the rack, representing patients ready to be seen. An emergency room in a big American city is a crucible of human suffering and desperate behavior. Everybody and everything rolls in off the streets at one time or another, and anything can happen. The walk-in case may have the flu or viral meningitis. The man on the stretcher might have a bruised shoulder or a bullet in the heart. Many of our late-night visitors were gang members and crack addicts. I never knew what to expect when I pulled back the curtain. Once when I was pregnant, a man pulled a knife while I cut off his leather jacket with trauma scissors. I was only saved by a savvy ER nurse, a former medic with 2 tours in Vietnam. He saw the knife coming toward my ribs and threw me out of the way, into a wall, before I even knew what was happening. I should say here that I'm only 5'3", but no one has ever thought of me as small. It was a lesson I always taught my female interns. Doctors are not short. Doctors have no gender. Doctors are in control, or at least you have to seem that way, as a patient's world spins into chaos. Through it all, you have to wear a face that shows no judgment, no revulsion, only empathy and calm. After a while, it becomes second nature. This night, the first few cases were routine. I talked with them, examined them, and dispositioned them, deciding if they went to intensive care, critical care, surgery, or home. The stroke victim would go to the ICU. The child with abdominal pain was sent directly to surgery for an appendectomy. The man with a fractured ankle was splinted and then released home in the care of an orthopedist. There were multiple heart attacks, overdoses, and a cancer patient with acute pneumonia. A woman walked into the waiting room with 2 black eyes and a gash on her forehead that clearly needed stitches. She told the triage nurse that she had fallen down. After treating her wounds, I referred her to a domestic violence counselor. Before long, I had 20 cases in my head, in orbit, as we say. It was what I was trained to do, and I settled into the night's tempo. Still, it seemed there was never enough time to spend with my patients. The object of